This video is going to show you how to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions and how to convert improper fractions back to mixed numbers. Remember, convert is a word that we use to mean to change from one form to another. So before we start, let's just look at some examples of both of these to remind ourselves a little bit of what they are. So a mixed number, an example of a mixed number could be something like 2 and 1/4. Or you could also say an example is 14 and 2/3. So a mixed number has a whole number part, and it also has a fractional part. And if you notice, they're close together. The whole number is written larger, and when you say them, you put an and in between the whole number and the fraction, like 2 and 1/4, or 14 and 2/3. Okay, let's look at some examples of improper fractions. An improper fraction would be something like 21/5, or you could say 13/2. So if you remember, what is interesting about an improper fraction is that the numerator is larger than the denominator. So both of these fractions have numerators larger than the denominator. What that is really saying is 21/5 or 21/1/5. Or 13/1/2. So if I had a half 13 times, if I had 13 of them, that is what that's saying there. And we'll look at more of that as we kind of convert them here in a second. Okay, so let's start with converting from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So first I'm going to show you the way that it's done, sort of the method that we use, and then I'm going to show you why that method works. Let's start with 3 and 1/4. If I wanted to change the mixed number 3 and 1/4 into an improper fraction, all I have to remember is I multiply the denominator and the whole number, the large number. I multiply those, and then I add the numerator. I add the top number. So if I multiply 4 times 3, and then I add one more, I'd get 13. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus one more is 13. And if you remember, when we make an improper fraction from a mixed number, our denominator still stays the same. So 3 and 1/4 is the same as having 13/4. And I'm going to show you a picture to show how that is possible. Okay, so if I have 3 and 1/4, that's kind of like I'm saying I have 3 holes and then another 1/4. So I'm going to draw 3 holes in the form of squares. And then I also have 1/4, but you have to remember that that 1/4 is out of the same hole. So I have 1/4 of this hole here. Okay, so I have 3 and 1/4. Let me color in the rest of them too. So either way that I draw it, my visual here is showing 3 and 1/4, and it's also showing 13/2. The way that I can see how it's showing 13/2 is if I take a different color here and actually split these holes into fourths. Count and see how many 1/4 I have. How many little 1/4 sections do I have? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I have 13 1/4 or 13/4. And that is why using the method of multiplying the denominator and whole number and then adding the numerator works. Because what I did is I multiplied 4 times 3 using my holes, and then I added that one extra part, that 1/4. Alright, now let's talk about if I were to start with the improper fraction. So if I started with 13/4 and I wanted to change that into a mixed number. Okay, thinking back to that same picture here, if I have 13/1/4, I can also think about that as dividing 13 divided by 4. So I want to think about how many wholes I can make out of 4. If I have to split 13 up into 4 parts, how many can I make? How many wholes can I make? So you can do that just the simple way of splitting up your number into the parts. So putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then I have 1 left over. Now, but I'll warn you, it won't always work out that easily because you won't always necessarily have small numbers. So it's also good to think about it as, what if I divide 13 divided by 4, what whole number do I know can divide into 4 that's close to 13? So I know I can do 12 divided by 4, and that would be 3. That's where I got my 3 that's inside each circle. And I know I would have 1 left over, just like we have here in our picture. So that is written as, you know your whole number is whatever is inside one of the circles. Inside one of these circles is 3. So I know that's going to be my whole number. Whatever my numerator is going to be what's left over. What's left over here is this 1 that's outside here, so that becomes my numerator. And then, of course, just like usual, my denominator stays the same. So 13 fourths is the same as 3 and 1/4. I divided 13 divided by 4, and I found what whole number I could make out of that, and it was 3. Whatever was left over became my numerator, and my denominator stayed the same. It was still 4.